What's going on there, YouTube, and welcome back to another comic book video. Okay, so we're going to continue our coverage over X-Men comics as we work our way up to the Inferno event, the next crossover that we are about to cover on my channel. Now, we're going to cover Uncanny X-Men issues number 229 all the way up to 231. Now, this three-part story arc begins the idea of the X-Men working from the shadows. Because remember, at the end of Fall of the Mutants, when it came to the Uncanny X-Men part in that crossover, the world believes that the X-Men are currently dead. And this is great because when it came to the X-Men, they were very worried about the idea of being attacked by different kinds of enemies from all different angles. And so with them now having the world believing that they are dead, they can now work from the shadows, go after their enemies, but also help other people who possibly need their help. Now also, this three-part story arc begins the idea of introducing new kinds of characters and concepts into the world of X-Men comics. And really, Uncanny X-Men number 229 does a great job of being an example of the idea of bringing in new kinds of characters into the world of X-Men comics, because we do jump over to Singapore and we pick up with a character known as Joseon Hoan, and I really hope I pronounce her name correctly. Now, when it comes to Joseon, she owns a bank alongside with their family in Singapore, and this bank is very celebrated in their country because they treat their customers very well. But while you have her and her family working at a bank, what they believe should be a normal day, well, out of nowhere, their bank does get attacked by a new group of characters known as the Reavers. Now, the Reavers are half human, half machine characters. Now, at first, they were humans, but they had decided to modify their bodies with cybernetic body parts. Now we kind of find out that they have been going around the world and robbing different banks around the world. Now I'm going to explain how they're able to travel here in a moment, but when it comes to them trying to rob Joseon's family bank, unfortunately they couldn't access the main safe. And the reason why, because as soon as they arrived and began to shoot up the place, the bank went to an automatic lockdown for 24 hours. And so the safe cannot be opened up in a normal way. And so you have the Reavers just blow the safe right open and grab all the money they wanted to grab. Now, when they are leaving, a random portal does open up. And this portal is going to explain how they are able to travel across the world. Now, we also kind of find out they killed off most of Joseon's family, but then they grab her to be a hostage for their own personal reason that I'll explain here in a moment. Now, the way they are able to travel across the world is because of one character, and that would be Gateway. Gateway is a mutant that has the ability to open up portals to allow people to travel across the world. Now, when it comes to Gateway, there's not much to know about the character. Matter of fact, we still don't know his actual origin, but the only reason why he's helping out the Reavers is because they told him if he does not help them out, they were going to attack a sacred place to his culture. And so, to protect that sacred place, he agreed to help them travel across the world. Now, the reason why they have grabbed Joseon is because she's a great financial advisor. Because the Reavers have been going around collecting a lot of money, but now they want to know how to properly spend that money, how to properly invest that money. And that is where she comes in. Now, they know that she would not be down with this idea, especially after they had just killed off most of her family. But that is when we focus on one member of the team, and that would be Pretty Boy. See, Pretty Boy has the ability to connect wires to your mind to reprogram you, to make you do whatever he wants you to do. And so his goal right now is to technically turn Joseon into a Reaver so that she'll begin to help them with their money problem. But then we shift our focus on two members of the Reavers who are standing outside and realize that the weather has begun to change. A sandstorm is about to come in. And of course, that would be very bad when it comes to their homes. And so you have the two Reavers run back inside to tell the others, hey, we have to make sure all windows are closed, everything's good to go, because a huge sandstorm is about to come in right now. Now, this sandstorm is being done by one particular member of the X-Men, and you already know who that is. It's Storm. And so you then have the X-Men begin to attack the actual base of the Reavers. Now, this is why the X-Men love the idea of working from the shadows, because now they are able to pull off surprise attacks like this, because now their enemies are going to have a hard time counterattacking their surprise attacks. And it works out very well because the X-Men are able to take out most of the Reavers. They're also able to save Jason, but unfortunately, 3 members of the Reavers do get away, and that would be Bonebreaker, Skullbuster, and Pretty Boy. Now, the only reason why they were able to get away is because of Gateway opening up a portal for them to allow them to escape. But for the X-Men, they still won because they saved Josan, but they also took out most of the Reavers. Now, the X-Men have another problem, and that is what to do with the members of the Reavers that they were able to capture, but also what to do with Jason, because they want to make sure that word does not get out about the idea of the X-Men being alive. And that is when you have Lady Roma appear, the guardian of the Omniverse around this time in Marvel Comics. Now, when she does appear, she tells our heroes she has a way to help them, and that would be the Siege Perilous. The Siege Perilous has the ability to give someone a second chance in life. It's technically a reboot to give you the ability to make better choices in your life, but also you'll forget everything in your past life. And so when it comes to the members of the Reavers, when they walk through that actual gate, 1, they will no longer be Reavers, but 2, they'll have the chance to make better choices, and 3, they'll forget about the X-Men. And the same thing for Jason as well. And so that is how the X-Men will be able to keep their names out of people's mouths. For the most part, because still, there are 3 members of the Reavers that got away. But that is better than like 15, 20, or 25 members of the Reavers being out there in the world. And so with them being able to use the siege, then the X-Men are able to continue to work in the shadows. Now, we do dive into Uncanny X-Men number 230, where we pick up with the X-Men taking over the base of the Reavers. And this makes a lot of sense. And the reason why, because around this time, the entire world believes that the X-Men are dead, which means they can't go back to their old base. Because at their old base, you have Magneto and the New Mutants there. And they want to make sure that everyone is on board in believing that the X-Men are dead. Now, I do want to focus on Madeline Pryor real quickly. And the reason why, because when it comes to Madeline, she has a huge role in the Inferno event, the next crossover that we're going to cover. Now, when it comes to Madeline, around this time, she was married to Cyclops because Jean Grey died in the Dark Phoenix saga. Cyclops moved on, found Madeline, they got married, and had a son. Except as soon as Cyclops got word that Jean Grey was alive again, he left his wife and his son behind to go be with Jean Grey and go form X-Factor. Now, Scott realized that was the wrong move and went right back over to Alaska to hopefully fix things with Madeline, to only find out that she could possibly be dead. He found 2 dead bodies, believing it belonged to his wife and his son. Now, with him believing that, we come to find out she was not dead, she was just with the X-Men, but somebody took her son. And that leads us into Fall of the Mutants. Because in Fall of the Mutants, right at the tail end of that event, you had the X-Men telling the entire world that they were going to give up their lives to save the world against the adversary. Now, we already know they did that, but then Lady Roma brought them right back to life again. And that is why the world believes our heroes are currently dead. And so when it came to Madeline, before our heroes had actually sacrificed their lives, she left a message that was played on every single TV across the nation that told Cyclops, hey, I'm alive, but I'm about to die alongside with the X-Men. But our son is also alive, just missing. Somebody took him. Scott, please find our son. And that is why I'm saying she has a huge role when we jump into Inferno. But then we jump over to the X-Men, who are doing a training session. Now, while doing one, they realize that one of their team members is missing, and that would be Longshot. And the reason why is Longshot began to hear voices that were coming from the treasure room, the same room that was used by the Reavers to store their stolen goods. Now, here's the thing, because we begin to learn about one of the abilities of Longshot, and that would be psychometry. It's where you have Longshot being able to pick up on psychic imprints. Now, imprints are basically moments in the past where someone had with the object. So for example, if he found an old Game Boy and you had that Game Boy and you play so many great games on those Game Boy games, he was able to pick up the Game Boy and see those past moments. But here's the problem, because when he walks into the room, he realized the Reavers had stolen a lot of different objects from different people around the world. And so his powers are going onto overdrive. He's hearing way too many voices all at once, all these different past moments all at once. And his mind cannot handle it at all. But after a few days, you then have the X-Men realize that Longshot is waking up. Now, as soon as he does wake up, he explained what happened to him to the rest of his team by saying, listen, I was hearing and seeing way too many different imprints all at once, and my mind could not handle that at all. But with them being back up, he realized what he has to do, what the entire X-Men team has to do. And he says, we have to give back every single object that was stolen by the Reavers to their rightful owners. Now, most of the X-Men, they agree with him, except Wolverine. Now, really, for him, it's more of they got better things to do. But he does get overruled, and you have the entire X-Men team work together to make sure this actually happens. Now, how it works is that you have Longshot using his ability to find out where each object is supposed to go. And then you have Psylocke being able to connect his mind to everyone else's mind so they know where each object is supposed to go. But then you have Rogue being able to build a friendship with Gateway, who's then able to open up portals for our heroes to use to begin the process of traveling all over the world to make sure every single object gets back to their rightful owner. And really, that's the end of this chapter right here. Now, as we jump into Uncanny X-Men number 131, we do pick up with Colossus. Now, there are a few things I do want to talk about when it comes to Colossus. The first is that Colossus' powers are currently not working properly, because when it came to the Mutant Massacre, just like Kitty Pryde and Nightcrawler, he got seriously injured. Now, he was able to heal up, but here comes his problem. See, he's not able to turn off his powers like he usually can. And so sometimes, really most of the time, he is just stuck in his metal form. And occasionally he is able to turn it off, but not for long. And so we see him currently in the mountains just wanting to be left alone from the rest of the team. You have Rogue come by first because she realized there is something wrong, but him and Rogue are not really as close as him and Storm, because Colossus and Storm had joined the X-Men at the same time in Giant Size X-Men number 1. Now, they were able to build a strong bond with one another. But here's the thing. At first, Colossus does not want to tell Storm what's wrong with him, but then he realized the right thing to do is to open up. And he tells her, listen, this is what's wrong with me right now. I'm worried about my sister. And the problem is I can't go check up on her. And he's right, he can't, because the entire world believes that the X-Men are dead, including him. As a way to protect his friends and family, they have to pretend to be dead as a way to keep their enemies off their family and friends. But Colossus feels like there's something wrong with Magic and he wants to go check up on her. But Storm says, you really can't do that because honestly, if you do, our cover could possibly get blown. But after a few hours later, we do pick up with the X-Men cleaning up after dinner. Now, while they're cleaning up after dinner, you then have Dazzler kind of pull Storm to the side to express that she is worried about Colossus. Because just like Colossus, she has a family who is currently, grieving because they believe that they are dead. And so she says, listen, I am able to keep pushing forward, but Colossus, he's not able to push forward. I am worried about him being on the team, and I feel like he should possibly leave the team so that he'll be able to rejoin his sister. Now, as soon as you have Storm and Dazzler talking about that, Gateway walks in. Now, Gateway, he never says anything at all in the entire time in Marvel Comics, but he points over to Colossus, and then he opens up a portal. Now, because the X-Men have been with Gateway for a couple weeks now by this chapter of the series, they're kind of like, okay, we have to trust him because apparently Gateway has a way to help out Colossus, to make Colossus feel better. And so you have Colossus just walk through the portal by himself. Now, when it comes to Gateway, we kind of find out that he had teleported Colossus over to Limbo, the second home to Illyana, aka Magic. Now, when he arrives in Limbo, he sees his sister currently fighting against a group of demons that are being led by another demon known as Sin. Now, here is a quick reminder about Limbo. See, Illyana is in charge of Limbo, but while she is gone, you have Sin, one of the demons of Limbo, always trying to gain more and more power so that sooner or later he will be able to overcome the power of Illyana and take over Limbo. And so Limbo is always in some kind of civil war. Now, with that being said, when Colossus arrives, Illyana was trying to do a spell to summon her brother's dead soul. And so when he arrives, she believes that her spell actually worked, not knowing that this is her real brother right there to be there to see her. But either way, as soon as he arrives, he helps her out fighting against the demons. Now, once he is able to get rid of the demons, you then have the two characters being able to talk to one another. Now, this is a real heartfelt moment, except Colossus has to pretend to be dead, that she actually summoned him here, that he is not really there. But in reality, he is there. But then he asks Magic, okay, if you try to call me back here so badly, what did you need? Because it sounds like you did not need my help with those demons. What else is going on in your life? And so she tells Colossus that there was a night where she was at home reading a book that she would have to do a paper over in a couple of days. But while reading that book, the characters of the book came to life out of nowhere. Now, we were not told how in the world those characters came to life, but as soon as they were able to come to life, they were able to capture the rest of the New Mutants, and now they're being held as hostages. Now, when it came to Magic, she realized that she could not use her magical abilities because they don't work on these characters. And so she had to use her ability to teleport to get the heck out of there. And that is why she tried to summon Colossus, because she realized that she's not really a good fighter without her magical abilities. But Colossus, somebody who has super strength in a metal form body, he'll be able to take on those creatures and to save the New Mutants from those characters. And he says, I'll do it for you. Now, this situation works out very well for Colossus because it gives him the chance to relearn how to control his powers. Because when it comes to Colossus, he goes in there in his metal form. But when he is in his metal form, his body is a tad bit bigger, meaning that he is unable to get into smaller places. And so he has to relearn how to turn his powers off to be able to get into those tighter areas. And once he's able to get through them, turn his powers back on. But when it comes to Colossus, he was able to take down these creatures or characters, from the book that Magic was reading. But once he was able to do that, he was also able to free the New Mutants. Now, this leads into a great moment for both Colossus and Magic, really more for Magic, because when it comes to Magic, in our New Mutant videos, we have been seeing her kind of really going through a lot, because with Colossus supposedly being dead, she wanted revenge against Forge. And matter of fact, she even attacked Forge. Now, when it came to her having revenge, you didn't have Destiny tell her, I saw a future where your hunger for revenge would bring the end to the entire world, because demons from Limbo will come here and take over the world. You'll be the reason why the world is going to fall. But on top of that, because her hunger for revenge is bringing out her dark side, her dark child side. And matter of fact, when that side comes out, she looks very demonic. But she tells Colossus that she is trying to be good, but unfortunately, she does not feel like she is good. But here is where Colossus come in and say, you are good. If you believe that you are trying to be good, that means you are good, because look at you. You are doing the right things right now, using your powers for only good, not evil. You were able to realize your mistakes and overcome those mistakes. And look at you right now, working with me to save your friends. That is a hero. That is a good person. And honestly, it's a great moment for both characters, because now Colossus realized what his sister is going through, but now realize that she is okay. And you have the two characters hug and Colossus leave, because right at that moment, Gateway opened up a portal to bring him back home. But for Magic, she feels like her spell had just ended. But before the book ends, we jump over to Sin. And when it comes to Sin, he gets back up after losing to Colossus earlier. And when it comes to Sin, he says, listen, I was not able to stop Colossus because magic or demonic magic does not work on him in his metal form. But I can still go after magic, and I'm getting stronger day by day. And sooner or later, I will be able to take her down. And this is where we are going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.